Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on CFS and ICDs today. On behalf of Maritime Gateway and our partners CFSAI and NSCFS, I extend this warm welcome to all our esteemed keynote speakers, panelists, moderators, and participants. Today's webinar is titled Sustainability of CFSs and ICDs in the Post-Pandemic Era. I hope all of you agree that in history, will record this most turbulent period as pre-pandemic and post-pandemic due to the deep scars that are etched into our political, economic, and social life and memories. We have been impacted so much that several businesses models are changing and will change forever. CFS industry pan-India constitutes of about 170 CFS ICDs. They play an important role as extensions of ports to efficiently manage to increase EXIM container business. They help small importers and exporters in consolidation and deconsolidation of LCL cargo. And most importantly, 95% of CFS and ICDs, MSME sector, and developed and managed by Indian companies. History shows that these facilities have helped the container volumes at ports to grow leaps and bounds almost 40 times. I will not get into more details as our keynote speakers and panelists will share deeper insights and interesting thoughts in today's discussions. What I'm going to do is show you a brief presentation on some of the facts related to our industry. So what you see here is the state-wise operational ICDs and CFSs. The green ones show the more number of CFS ICD facilities in Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu, and followed by West Bengal and Kerala with most of the CFS and ICDs. So if you look at the top 10 exports from Indian ICDs and CFSs, these are actual 2019 and 20 figures by volume. We have rice, basmati is the major 16% of the exports, and second being buffalo meat. Even the third closest is rice other than basmati. So if you put basmati and non-basmati rice, it is amounting to almost, let's say, 23-24%. Then followed by iron and steel, granite, oil mills, auto tires, tubes, dyes, and Gurugram meal, cement, clinker, and others. The 40% of others is less than 2% components. That's why they have been clubbed together as 40%. Then if you look at the destinations of top 10 export destination, USA 14%, Saudi Arabia 6%, Vietnam is 5%, United Arab Emirates 4.8%, UK 3.6%, and the rest of the countries follow less than 3%. These are the imports at Indian ICDs and CFSs. Iron and steel being the major, then followed by plastic raw materials, aluminum, products of aluminum, inorganic chemicals, organic, newsprint, pulp, granite, processed. So we have the commodity-wise, cargo-wise data, country-wise data. If anybody is interested, I can share the details later. But due to paucity of time, I just showing the pie chart. These are the top 10 import origin nations: China, followed by United Arab Emirates, USA, Korea, United Kingdom, Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and South Africa. So these top exports based ICDs and CFSs by volume, this is sheer by volume, no other benchmarking parameters. I'm just showing these ICDs and CFSs just for the sake of by number of TUs that being handled at these facilities. You have ICD Tughlakabad and Sabarmati being the top ICDs, as well as CFSs Star Trek, Albatross, and CFS Mulund. Similarly, import-wise, you have Sonipat and Sabarmati, Hyderabad, CFS Albatross, Dadri, Nashik, and CFS Star Trek, Dadri. And this I borrowed from our friend Surajit Sarkar. This NLDS is giving a huge data on the performance matrix, dwell times, and all that. This is taken for the month of October 2020. If you look at the dwell time, these are available in the public domain. So there are no analysis being made because in the panel discussion anyway, we'll be discussing a lot of these things. So this is a recent development which CBIC is thinking to restrict the forthcoming ICDs or CFS facilities according to these three zones. Maybe government thinks that they need to be distributed in a more rational manner. I don't know what is the logic behind this, but the green zone indicates more opportunities coming in the states, and blue zone is restricted permissions, and red is a no-go for the time being. So some of the key points that I would like to put forward for this forum is, yes, still most of the facilities are operating at 50%, which makes it very difficult for the viability, bring in viability in view of the investments made into that. Definitely DPT and DPE has impacted the business, contracting the volumes at dry ports. And these some of the new policy measures that are coming in, the minimum threshold volumes maintaining and all that in times of the changing scenarios and difficulties in trade being contracted, these also could be a constraint. Of course, container shortage is impacting the whole world, and we are no exception. We also have a serious problem at our facilities in India. In spite of all this, what the industry should look at is new business models, opportunities, impressing upon the government to allow the CFS facilities for handling non-EXIM cargo or getting into air cargo or more value-added services. So coming back to the so the regularity environment is fast changing in every sphere, more so in case of CFS ICD segment. While some of the regulations are a drive towards improving facilitation and ease of doing business, the serious concern is that others other measures seem to be adding more pressure on the business operations, affecting the sustainability. Here I would like to thank the associations CFSCI and NACFS, which complement and supplement each other and share best practices towards safe and secured handling, servicing and transportation of EXIM containerized cargoes. Maritime Gateway wholeheartedly thanks both the organization and their office bearers, especially Secretary General of CFSCI, Mr. Umesh Grover, and President of NACFS, Mr. Pramod Kumar Srivastava, for not only accepting our idea of conducting this webinar but also for backing it up with all their inputs in putting together the speakers and discussion points. I also thank our technology partner, NICDC Logistics Data Services Limited, for supporting this initiative. Let me conclude by my welcome by saying this. In spite of their investment, key role in facilitating growing EXIM trade in the country, somehow this industry often attracts criticism and once in a while faces the wrath of other stakeholders. In early modern Europe, in monarchical days, there used to be a whipping boy who was educated alongside a prince who received corporal punishment for the prince's transgressions in his presence, because prince cannot be punished. So I feel CFSs are like those whipping boys getting punished more often for other acts. But things have to change. Things have to change for better. I think both government and shippers need to better understand and appreciate the critical role that this industry plays. And enterprises have to introspect, if needed, to realign their business practices in tune with the changing times. Trade associations have to play more proactive role in sensitizing and impressing the institutions and stakeholders. In this context, today's webinar is a small step towards that. Today, we have a galaxy of speakers who will deliberate on the most pressing issues of this industry and hopefully come out with feasible solutions to weather out the current storm and sail smoothly into the post-pandemic era. With this, once again, I warmly welcome all of you to this wonderful webinar and fruitful day ahead. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Adarsh Hegdeji, the President of CFS Association of India and also Joint Managing Director of Alcorco Logistics Limited, to deliver his address.
Thank you. Thank you, Ram Prasad. You actually stole a lot of things out of what I wanted to express. So this is across in the industry. So let me start. Very good morning and a warm welcome to each one of you. What a way to connect. This is, I guess, is the new normal. Well, as Ram Prasad just said, I just want to recap this. The CFA-CI had actually decided on an annual day, which was to be celebrated on 13th March of 2020. However, the global pandemic COVID-19 was declared by WHO on the 11th. Hence, we decided to cancel the event in the interest of safety of everyone. Since then, we have been looking forward to host with the hope that this is soon going to end. While late did we realize this is not going to end, and this is going to be the new normal, at least for some time. Hence, the CFSCI, in association with the NACFS and in collaboration with Gateway Media, of course, Gateway Media came forward with this idea, decided to host and connect with all of you through this webinar to deliberate on sustainability of CFS and ICD in post-pandemic era. Thank you, Ram Prasad. You shared a lot. Thank you, you and Pramod Srivastav and CFS for coming forward in this joint initiative of ours. We have respected guests in this forum. Would like to start by welcoming and thanking them for taking time out from their hectic schedule. Thank you, Mr. Anand Swarup, JS Logistics, Mr. MGT Valavan, Commissioner, RI and I, CBIC, and Mr. V. Kalyanarama, CMD CONCOR, for kindly agreeing to join us despite their schedule to come and deliver the keynote address. A warm welcome to Sri Umesh Wagh, Deputy Chairman JNPT, for having accepted our invitation to be an esteemed panelist. Also, can't thank you enough, sir, for all the support you extended during the lockdown. We understand that you just took over and we had the lockdown, and your support, your unstinted support was immense, and thank you so much for that. A warm welcome to my good friends and the industry leaders who needs no introduction. Mr. Dinesh Lal, Sandeep Mehta unfortunately could not join, Girish Munjal, Captain Deepak Tiwari, Sanjay Swarup, Shantanu, Mr. Aluwalia, Surajit Sirkar, Pramod Sant, Ashutosh Jaiswal, and my CFSA colleague, Captain Nishit, for agreeing to be the esteemed speaker and panelist. Want to also thank my fellow colleagues and members of the Association of CFSCI and NACFS for their unstinted support at all times. Friends, isn't this amazing? Technology has been one of the greatest means of transforming the society in the present era. It directs the virtual transformation of almost every component of our life today. The style of working, the means of living, the way we are communicating and doing business. It has influenced our welfare, democracy, healthcare, environment, and the society at large. It won't be incorrect if I say that digitalization is revolutionary and has majorly changed the way we do business. It is the greatest channel of globalization as it connects people worldwide within minutes. Needless to say, this is an example of it. It's a living example. We need not drive for a few hours in a traffic to attend an event, while just log in from wherever we are and you are connected in minutes. Obviously, it also has its own advantages. Some of us could also be sitting with a blazer with the suit around, but below we have shorts without shoes as well, at ease, right? So today's topic, I know there's a lot being already said by Ram Prasad, and we have a lot of eminent and learned speakers. Well, I just can't leave this opportunity to share my views as well a little. I just wanted you all to look back. CFS was a lifeline for the ports to manage more volumes. Many private entrepreneurs invested heavily to support this initiative of the government to provide service as an extension of the port. Additional terminals were built, while more entrepreneurs came forward, invested heavily in a world-class facility. To support the increasing volume, over a period of time, the demand and supply skewed, and the supply became more than the demand. Does happen. I mean, this is part of the cycle of any business, I guess. In the cause of ease of doing business and to be competitive, came customers' choice of CFS, which is still fair. We changed our business model. Then came the real tsunami, direct port delivery, which further reduced the addressable volumes for the CFS. We've again changed our business model, while, as like Raj said, the capacities being utilized is not more than 40 to 50%. To add to this, the pandemic, during the initial stages of lockdown, when the life in this country and globally came to standstill, CFS, along with ports, being the essential service providers, continued working despite all sorts of challenges and taking huge risk, ensuring the ports were not congested, ensuring EXIM trade and the essential supplies do not come to a grinding halt. On behalf of the association and me personally, heartfelt thanks to all the CFS ICDs, port terminals, and other stakeholders across India for their exemplary role they played during the global crisis. Each one of us have had many COVID warriors in our organization who never feared for their life to ensure services were on. I must also compliment the CFS ICD management, who took all precautions to ensure social distancing and safety of their people and customers. There were hardly any incidences reported. Having said all the above, with all the hardships we went through, what were we summoned to was brickbats, not appreciation. There's hardly been any appreciation, like Ram Prasad impressed upon, for the work and services we as CFS, CI, ICDs have been providing till date. Needless to say, continuation of this pandemic has further beaten us down completely, with volumes going down drastically, vessels skipping, blanking of vessels, freight rates going up, inventory shortage, etc., etc. The volumes just don't seem to go up. And with no dwell time and more freebies, the business model for CFS ICDs is continuously changing and becoming difficult day by day. It's not easy and will not be easy going forward as well. With utilization of all the CFSs put together is 40 to 50%, it's really becoming challenging and threatening unless we have more service avenues to sustain our P&L and to ensure employment. We are hoping that we, in discussion with the government, are able to find that additional avenues of service and make use of the world-class infrastructure that's already built. We have already initiated a lot of discussions with the government and are seeking their support and help us so as to help us to remain afloat. We also seek support of the entire logistics industry, the leaders in this panel discussion, the eminent speakers in this in this webinar. My earnest request to you all, support us so that we move ahead and keep ourselves afloat. Last but not the least, a very important announcement that we missed during which we wanted to do in our annual meet. we would like to felicitate and honor three unique logistics players who are well known, who completed 100 years: JM Bakshi Group, Chinubai Kalidas and Brothers, and the Leeladhar Basu Group, for their unprecedented and tremendous contribution to the maritime and logistics fraternity. Kindly accept our humble token of memento in appreciation for your exemplary contribution, which will be delivered to you soon. Just on a lighter note, I understand the Nobel Prize were also given this year in a similar fashion. Once again, want to thank each one of you. While I'm sure we will have very insightful panel discussion with the galaxy of eminent speakers sharing their thoughts with us and the way forward. Enjoy the session. Over to Ram Prasad, and thank you once again to all you present here.
Thank you, Mr. Adarsh Hegde. Now it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Pramod Kumar Srivastava, who is the President of National Association of Container Freight Stations, NACFS, to deliver theme address. Over to Pramod.
Good morning to all of you. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Adarsh because he made my life easy because he has already covered maximum points. So to start with, good morning everyone. First, I would like to thank Ram Prasad ji for initiation of having this webinar in association with NACFS and CFSAI. Both the association are having common vision to support and enhance the CFS and ICT infrastructure in India. So moving forward, it will be nice to have more such collaborative sessions. I would like to welcome Mr. Vallabhan, Mr. Rama, Mr. Sarup, and all other respected speakers. I look forward to hearing everyone valuable views because I feel that the discussion has to be very open and it has to be discussed in a right spirit. The theme of today is sustainability. This sustainability is always came as and when there is a change in policy. So sustainability is a challenge in all the time, but we feel that this topic can really going to be a submission to the government that something is available ready. In the post-pandemic time, the word is great importance to all of us. ICD and CFS have seen a drop in business volume due to various issues caused by the pandemic. However, I am confident that with the experience and talented ICD CFS operators among us, we will bounce back strong and adopt a new normal. The webinar is focused on way to promote sustainability of ICD and CFS. We have some points which I just wanted to put forward. We look forward to standard templates for exploring new avenues such as handling non-EXIM and coastal cargo of CFS and ICD, guideline allowing manufacturing unit in a bonded warehouse under Section 65, a clarification of cost recovery policy, nationwide adoption of uncleared cargo software by the custom as compulsory digital mode, new way to digitalize our operation and discussing on better utilization of infrastructure. We recently seen Circular 50/2020 has just come out. First of all, I like again to thank CBIC for this updated circular. It has been a guideline for new investor who would like to enter CFS and ICD business. In this particular infrastructure projects, which are normally take time. We all know that it is a universal fact, but the threshold limit which Mr. Ram Prasad has very kindly included in the presentation, where the threshold limit has been set up for 4 years. So we feel that that need to be corrected. And as regard to other points are concerned, I have mentioned it. So I just not want to be giving my view only. I wanted to listen to understand that what are my future goals would be after hearing from all the eminent speakers. I don't want to name each and every one, but I am really thankful to them for coming and going to give their views. So I will be, without further ado, I would like to request Ram Prasad ji take this session forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pramod ji. After the opening remarks, welcome address and theme address, we have three dignitaries delivering keynote addresses. So I am not introducing or reading out the profiles of the previous speakers or the speakers coming after this, because all of them are very acknowledged professionals, senior bureaucrats in our industry. If any of these 200 and odd participants do not know them, they are not in this industry. If they are new, please get in touch with me. I have reams and reams of their professional work with me I can share with you. With that, it is my pleasure to request Dr. M.G. Tamil Vallavan, IRS Commissioner, Investigation and Customs, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance, Government of India, to deliver his keynote address. Welcome, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ram Prasad Ravi. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of your gathering today, and I thank the organizers for inviting me as a keynote speaker in this. I thought I will use this opportunity to highlight some of the features of the new guidelines which we have issued recently on ICDs and CFS. We all know the business environment is changing leaps and bounds year after year, and the government through various measures tries to meet the needs of the or aspirations of the industry and trade, and also helps to give impetus to the growth and all the other challenges we are facing in the economic front. So with this background, the one issue which was lingering for a long time is a comprehensive policy on setting up of ICDs and CFS. You're all aware that till 2018, this interministerial committee was functioning under the Department of Commerce, and 2018 the work was transferred to Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. And even after transfer, the policy relating to setting up of new facilities and their functioning were governed by the 1992 policies. So 1992 to 2020, 28 years, there was no revision or no thought given for any revision of these policies. And in these 3 decades, a lot of developments took place, and we have got numerous facilities coming up in various pockets of the country. So taking into all these factors, we attempted and we have issued guidelines, and we have also given some rider in that guidelines because we felt these guidelines were long overdue. And I know my colleague in logistics division, they are working on a more comprehensive policy on multi-modal logistic parks, and he will be giving some details about that. So with this background, if you allow me, I can just give a small presentation of the new policy. So our Board Circular 50 of 2020 deals with this new policy and guidelines. So this is the small background of our my presentation. Shortcomings of the old policy, regulatory advancement and infrastructure development, a rationale for applicability of the new policy, key changes, approval procedures, post-approval obligations, and denotification. When we talk about shortcomings of the old policy, as I said earlier, there was no policy framework in the last many years, and we were working on the 1992 policy. There was a need to come out with a policy that meets the current requirements. And another challenge, major challenge is approval for setting up of new facilities were being granted. It is not my observation. It was the Comptroller and Auditor General of India report, which says the government was giving approvals without assessment of existing capacity and utilization. And the policy, 1992 policy, did not address infrastructural requirements that should be in place for granting such permission and a post grant before operationalization of these facilities. The earlier policy did not have any provisions relating to how to monitor the performance of the facilities that are being set up after getting permission. And finally, there was no clarity on denotification process. So these are all the major challenges we thought we'll address, incorporating the elements of the old policy also. If you see that graph, this is the again audit report, less than 50% to 20, they have a sample of 85 facilities, ICDs and CFS, and 20 facilities, they were less than 50% capacity, 16 facilities working 50% to 70% capacity, only 15% were operating more than 75% of their capacity. Also, there are a lot of developments. We all know in the last 6 years, government is giving more focus on ease of doing business and to enhance and expedite the cross-border clearances. So board and other ministries, they introduced many new initiatives, and all of you are aware of these initiatives: the direct port delivery and direct port entry, electronic cargo tracking system based cross-border transit, and higher RMS based facilitation. So before 2015 and after 2015, if you see, there was a quantum jump in the proportion of the facilitated bills. And in 2017, we have introduced a self-sealing facility for exporters with the use of RFID seals. And recently, a couple of months back, we have introduced faceless assessment, and that will give uniform customs service standards across customs ports, and rising adoption of authorized economic operator program. So once you become tier 2 and tier 3 economic AEO, and the facilitations are much more higher than an ordinary stakeholder. And the other infrastructural developments, we have also seen centralized parking plazas, nominated DPE facilities at gateway ports, new expressways, national highways connecting ports with the interland, operationalizing the western and eastern dedicated freight corridors, prioritized development of inland national waterways. That is the new thing that is coming up, and they have identified many waterways for development and to promote cargo movement through waterways. Infrastructure augmentation at major ports and new private ports in both western and eastern coasts, and port congestion as a reason for creating ICD and CFS. So if you see DPE, DPD, all these initiatives and enhanced RMS facilitation, as such, ICD and CFS, I am talking about in relation to customs work. In a long run, they may I don't know, have to go for alternative arrangements. As such, maybe 10 years from now, customs presence may not be required in ICD and CFS also. We may have a situation. So this is the rationale rationale for and applicability of ICD CFS policy. It lays down appropriate institutional, administrative, and regulatory framework for approval proposals. It establishes a framework of requirements pertaining to the volume, layout, regulatory compliance, promote DPT and DPE infrastructure, create approval framework for facilities on upcoming railway corridors and inland waterways. If you see the applicability, there are certain provisions which are applicable for the new facilities which may come up, and there are certain paragraphs on like performance management and inspection system and all. It is applicable to the existing ICD as well as. These are all the key changes. One of the major change, we are getting a lot of representations also on after the issuance of the circular. One of the major feature we have introduced is we have demarcated the whole of India into 3 zones of states: the green zone, blue zone, and red zone. Red zone, you can see in the map, already a lot of facilities are already in operation, and it is almost choked as far as we are concerned. And blue zones lie in between, and green zones, the facilities, there is a lot of scope for setting up new facilities. It will not only help in industrial development in those regions, it will also create equitable growth across the country. So when we say these green zones, so the green zones, our policy says the approval is getting approval is very, very easy, subject to fulfillment of basic criteria. Blue zones, a little more analytical rigor is conducted before approving a new facility. Red zones, as a rule, we discourage giving any approvals for these things. I am aware that some of the representation says, and during last week, some other interministerial group also, there was a thought that instead of states, the zone should be demarcated at the district level. It's a good idea. I can't give any commitment on this. Anyway, these policies are dynamic and continuously evolving. At appropriate time, the ministry may take a stand on this. It's a very good suggestion to demarcate based on the district instead of state as a whole. Second is volume norm. The minimum threshold performance norms. When you say performance, when you set up an ICD, you have to give a substantial justification that I may be able to handle 7,200 TUs per year in the case of ICDs, and 1,200 TUs per year for a CFS. Land requirements, minimum area, we have increased the threshold from existing 4 acres to 7 acres. Out of this, minimum 4 hectares as customs notified area. For states in green zone, ICD requirement and customs notified area would be 1 hectare for DPD and DP area. Minimum area requirement for CFSs, we have increased from 1 hectare to 2 hectares. Next is AFS. We have given 1,000. In the whole policy, give a liberal approach for setting up of AFS, because AFS is air freight station is a new concept, and government wants to promote more AFS to be created across the country. And another feature is new ICDs to be allowed within, no new ICD will be allowed within 200 kilometers of the port. This is because we want to encourage the port should be self-contained, and no CFS linked with ICD to be approved. The CFSs will be attached to ports only. No greenfield ICD to be allowed within 100 kilometers of the existing ICD. This is the another distance rule we have incorporated, and how this 100 kilometers we have defined also. Relaxation can be given on geographical and zonal criteria for both DFC and INW linked. This is just to, we want to be coherent with the broad national objectives of creating freight corridors. Similarly, we want to be liberal when it is linked to waterways. Also, we have given, when a national logistic policy or multimodal logistic policy is announced, our policy will be aligned in tune with that that policy, and whatever adjustment has to be done, that will be done while granting approvals based on harmonious reading of both the policies. And as I said earlier, AFS, based on demand supply, we will assess and will be granting permissions. So other notable additions or minor this thing, we have given performance management and infrastructural requirements. We have given a lot of focus, and the policy details out all the other aspects. Another notable feature is the approval procedure. We have given timelines and what are all the things to be done and who will do within those timelines, and what is the timeline once approved, what is the timeline within which a facility should come into operation. These things also were not there in the old policy. What will happen in the change in ownership and change in location? Change in ownership is a simple process. The jurisdictional commissioner can approve the change in ownership. If it is change of location, we treat it as setting up of a new facility and winding up of old facility. These are all the post-approval obligations we cast on the operators. It's there's not much to explain about this. We have taken into account all the aspects, including the observations of the audit, such as management of hazardous waste, handling of hazardous goods, and based on our experience, we also came across many facilities. They don't meet the requirement of the trade, actually. Lack of proper handling equipment and all we have specified. And finally, we also given clarity on how a facility can be denotified. So the jurisdictional commissioners can denotify based on the performance if he is not satisfied. Here also I saw some of the representations. It should be based on their representation. Commissioner should not denotify. So we have given thought about it because it involves customs functioning, and to optimally use the resources, these provisions were incorporated in the policy. And this is in broad about our new policy. And as I said, any policy, government policy is continuously evolving. We have received a lot of representations post issuance of these policies, and we are also will be working with logistic divisions when they come up with the grand policy of multimodal logistic park, and we will at the appropriate time we will give our inputs based on our experience and all the representations. So thank you very much. Thank you for inviting. I'm open to any questions now or at the end of the session.
Thank you, Dr. Valwan, for that detailed presentation. You have explained the rationale behind the new policy guidelines. And I'm sure that the government must have thought before deciding on some of these key changes. But at the same time, there are serious concerns from the industry. And on behalf of both the organizations, my partners in this webinar, maybe we would look forward for another interesting session with you alone, so that, because I see there are a lot of questions coming up and we are hard pressed for time. So I request you to give us some time in future, so that in the immediate future, so that we can raise our concerns and you can clarify them. With that, I am moving on to another policymaker who is also bringing a lot of change in the logistics sector. Joint Secretary from Logistics Division, Department of Commerce, and a great friend to all the industry, though some of the policy issues are sometimes painful. Mr. Anant Swarup, IRPS. Sir, over to Anant Swarup, sir.
Thank you, Ramprasad ji, for the invitation. Thank you, Adarsh ji. First of all, let me compliment you on your annual day, although late, but still it's very relevant. And I must also compliment the three companies who have celebrated 100 years, and that's a great, great achievement. Adarsh, you mentioned you did not get the amount of appreciation, the work which the entire community did. And I don't agree with it. You know, when the entire country was at a standstill, it was our ports and our airports which were functioning 24/7. And it is all of you who ensured the supplies continue to flow. And the Prime Minister also talked about the resilience of supply chain. So,
Thank you.
so that criticism is a bit
Thank
unfounded.
you. I hear this for the first time, at least. No, I know it could be a personal when people say this, but I guess, thank you.
See, we have been talking about sustainability, and it's nothing new. It's been, I think, since evolution, the topic about sustainability has been there. I remember 2 years back, there was a lot of apprehension in CFSs and ICDs about their survival. And there was a talk that 20,000 crores of investment has already sunk in, and then what happens if policy changes? At that point in time, also, I had argued, you know, policy has to continuously evolve. If somebody has invested in, say, generating industry or generators, they cannot say, since I've invested into generators, electricity should not come in, because what is good for a common good has to prevail over some pain to certain specific industry. As I was mentioning, sustainability is a topic which is being debated since eternity. Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest works not only in nature, it also works, and it works very strongly in the business world. Many of the top companies of the world have failed, be it Kodak, be it Polaroid, because they could not innovate with the changing environment, with the new dynamics which has been brought into the system. Therefore, I think most of these speakers before me have also talked about change, and that's the only constant. And we have to continuously innovate. We have to continuously build new business models to survive in this changing world. Consumers want choice. DPD and DPE is one such facilitation where a choice is being provided to the consumer. That doesn't mean that ICDs or CFSs don't have value, but it is the consumer who's evaluating the cost which I incur using the services of CFSs and ICDs, whether that cost gives me enough benefit vis-a-vis the other options which exist. Therefore, the value proposition for ICDs and CFS is that value proposition which we continue to bring onto the table, and that would be the differentiator between my survival and my decimation. As it has been mentioned, Mr. Valwan also mentioned, maybe in future, the customs portion of CFSs and ICDs may not be required. There's already a talk, and we have received a lot of representations from the industry mentioning this, that there are so many CRTs, the container rail terminals, and are new being built. Why should they not be used for EXIM cargo also? And all customs clearances take place at the ports and at the airports through DPE and DPD, and through technology it is possible. So maybe in future, that's the model where we create a grid of these small facilities all over the country, and the customs clearance takes place at the ports or at the airports, and we optimally utilize resources. But as I mentioned, that doesn't mean that ICDs and CFSs don't bring value. They bring a lot of value despite governments so much of pressure of increasing ICDs and CFSs, of increasing DPD and DPE. We have been able to reach around 40-50% at the max. So therefore, there is a market which requires CFSs and ICDs. But as I mentioned, the survival of CFSs and ICDs would depend if the customer feels that there is a value which is brought to the table if I use a CFS and an ICD. And that value you'll have to bring as an industry. Mr. Ram Prasad rightly mentioned that we have to look at new business models. We have to look at activities which are beyond what we are performing now. He also mentioned, and I endorse, containerization of domestic cargo. That's the future. We have to bring in value-added services in CFSs, ICDs. Bonded manufacturing is new big area which is coming up. Customs has already notified a policy. And I think CFSs and ICDs are very rightly placed to exploit that opportunity which exists. LCL cargo would continue to be utilized, will continue to utilize CFSs and ICDs for aggregation, disaggregation. Dangerous and hazardous good is one activity which requires specialization. CFSs and ICDs are well placed to offer those services. So these are some of the things which the CFSs and ICDs now should aspire to start providing service. A new policy on the multimodal logistics is also under discussion. We had a very good discussion, I think 2-3 days earlier. Mr. Srivastava was also a member there. So we are presently deliberating on some of the key questions, that what should be the minimum size, whether the government should prescribe a minimum size or should it not. What should be their design guidelines, government should prescribe or should not prescribe. Exclusivity, whether government should allow exclusivity or should not allow exclusivity. So these are some of the questions which we are deliberating upon. What should be the best contracting model? Should it be lease based or it should be revenue share? So these are some of the questions on which we are currently debating, and I'll be happy to interact with all of you if you have some suggestions on that. I like to close with only mentioning, which I started, change is the only constant. We have to continuously evolve ourselves, continuously evolve our business proposition. And we have to bring value, which the customer feels, yes, there is a value of utilizing these services. And that is only the key for our survival. So thank you once again, and all the best for your seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anand Swarup, for that very encouraging words. And from both speakers, what we hear is a change in policy, change in business model. Definitely, sir, you might be having pressing engagements, but if you can stay on, it would be good. Otherwise, both the secretariats of NACFS and CFSAI jointly share with you the gist of the deliberations and the suggestions coming out of this webinar in a couple of days' time, so that please kindly go through, because you have heard the suffering of the industry, and policy change is coming heavily. So before finalizing and fine-tuning, listen to the industry and then take a wise decision which will make the industry survive and serve better. With these words, I have.
In our case, we are requesting the industry to draft the policy for us.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for the proactiveness. Now we have another expert from the government, senior bureaucrat, Mr. V. Kalyanarama, IRTS Chairman and Managing Director, Container Corporation. Sir, welcome to the webinar. So COVID has made most of them look like Hollywood actors, I can see. Please deliver your keynote address, Mr. Kalyanarama.
Okay, Mr. Ramprasad, thank you very much for inviting me on this wonderful webinar and where I can share my thoughts. I heard the both Mr. Hegde and Mr. Srivastav, and then two policy makers, very important policy makers. Even though I started my career as bureaucrat, now I am part of the industry, running CFSs, ICDs, and also getting affected by the policies made by Anand and Mr. Vallavan. So I'm now on the other side of the table. Yeah. So having said so, see, the whole issue is, one point I struck that what Vallavan is talking about, that there may not be, the requirement of customs maybe in the future after 10 years. That's where we are leading to, if I look at it. During the COVID, there is definitely the supply chain has played a vital role and kept the wheel going on. The supplies continued, whether it is essential supplies, whether it is the industrial supply. That's how the life went on. And I fully endorse the view expressed by Anand that Honorable Prime Minister, he appreciated the supply chain and the beautiful work done by all the stakeholders of the supply chain management in India. See, this is the sunrise industry today, and the market is moving from brick and mortar onto online, but the goods have to be delivered. They have to reach the consumer. They have to reach the place where they are supposed to be. So the logistics will never lose its shine. The whole issue is whether it is going to happen with the physical marketplace or the online marketplace, but the backbone of the logistics, the supply chain will continue to play its greater role. So coming to the subject, the topic what we selected, whether the CFS and ICD, what will be their role and what is the sustainable model. See, maybe over the period, the CFSs, instead of developing as a logistics facility, started developing as a custom clearance facility or custom brokerage points. I think there where the problem is centered upon as on date. Even Container Corporation also, we have some CFSs which are of very small size, where we are also finding that unless we develop more and more of logistic facility which can create value, and as rightly pointed out by Anand, that unless the customer sees what is the value getting added, the customer will never come to that. If it's only simply a question of clearance of customs, the DPD and the model of DP and DPD are very useful for customer. As on date, yes, there are some difficulties in working out on these models, DPD, DPE. But over the time, with the more and more familiarity with this, the processes involved, more and more people will definitely adopt to these things, because that saves cost. Any handling of cargo is a cost to the customer. And to make the imports cheaper and the exports competitive, the handling cost has to be brought down. So we have to convert the CFS and ICD more of a logistic facility. And that is the view what Concur has taken. And for the last 10 years, we stopped developing pure ICD or pure CFSs. We started developing multimodal logistic parks. Maybe we are one of the pioneers in this. And now everything we develop in scale. And unless we develop these things on scale and put all the facilities there, so it's difficult to attract customer to a place where only the custom formalities happen. In fact, I'm a little surprised at the policy announced by the customs about the distance, about the zones and all that. This is, of course, my personal view. And as a view which I have taken, having experience in this industry for last 20 years, I'm working with Concur now and heading for last 4 years. Does it require? So it should be left to the marketplace, because as we are now seeing in this webinar, the idea unfolding that more and more of logistic facility has to come up. So the mere formality of custom clearance at a particular place, I think it's going to be a thing of past very soon. And DPD, DPE becoming more popular, the facility should be up to handle the cargo and to give a total business solution to make it more customer friendly. Why a customer should visit a CFS or ICD? At Concur, we have taken this approach. During COVID times, we not only provided the entire information, we made the transactions online. We allowed them to use our portal services so that the customer need not step into our CFS ICD. Today, most of the things a customer can do it online. So we are also taking the market to the online marketplace. But yes, as I said, the physical activity has to happen. So there will be always a demand for the logistic activity to take place physically, but the marketplace is going online. As e-commerce developing, e-logistics are developing. And if we see some of the unicorns got established in India, a few of them are from logistics side. They're doing very well. They're connecting the dots, and just connecting dots, they're becoming unicorn. So the future of the CFS and ICD is that how fast we can make them the logistics enablers to the industry. That will be the answer to all this, to maintain them and to make them sustainable even in future. So we have to move towards that. It should not be seen as customs clearance facilities. And so that's why my personal opinion about the circular issued by the customs, whether that, okay, that's a procedure. As on date, yes, we require some customs clearance facilities required. So we have to take permission from the customs department. Some customs staff are to be posted there and do the clearances. But with the new systems adopted by customs, and the department is very progressive, they are allowing the things to happen, like in AAO customers, the things can go on in green channels. So these things will be slowly, the custom clearance aspect will slowly lose importance at these facilities, and more logistics, the aspects of logistics and logistics related activities will gain more importance. So I'm of course I'm an optimist always, and I don't see any reason why we should fear that there will be a challenging time. So yes, challenging times are there. The challenges are there. How fast we can convert, how fast we can create the value additions which can attract more customers to CFS and ICDs, and how best we can make it possible. The one small thing that the warehousing in India is there's huge demand for warehousing, quality warehousing. Unfortunately, 30-40% of our warehousing is not quality warehousing. Quality warehousing has got good demand. But again, warehousing as just a warehouse has no demand. Unless we create facility there, we create the value addition aspects over there, and we can service the customer. Those warehouses which have come up and which are able to provide as the fulfillment centers for e-commerce, they are doing very well. And without warehouses, the market will not be able to function. The logistics will not be able to take place. So we need a lot of warehousing in India. We need the value additions in India. So a lot many things can happen, and that there where we have to step in and we have to develop and we have to evolve. With this view only, we at Concur, we are continuously expanding. We are creating, now we are going into the distribution side. We are trying to come up with on a PPP model to develop warehousing and create more facilities. So our expansion plans, even in COVID times, we have never stopped them. We are continuously building our infrastructure. And in fact, I'm happy to share with all the panelists here and all the attendees that things started really looking up well on the logistics side. Having started this financial year bad, at the end of the Q2, we started finding things are turning towards the better side, and in fact, September month, it's a surprising thing for us also that we did better than last year. So it shows that the requirement of logistics is always there. We are a population of 130 crores, and all the people require the goods and services. That is where we are working on. We are the backbone for this. So I think we got a good time to go, good times to have, and this is definitely a sunrise industry. So with this optimistic note, I want to end this address, and I wish all the best for the industry. And thank you once again, Mr. Amritsar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kalyana Ramaji, for those positive notes that the industry is promising and very encouraging. So we have heard 3 keynote speakers. So I thank Dr. Vallavanji, Anand Swarup, and Kalyana Ramaji for their valuable insights. I have a couple of announcements to make before we proceed to the next event of the day. One is we have 210 participants right now logged into the webinar. With that, and the previous welcome address, Mr. Adarsh Shetty mentioned that the organizations wanted to celebrate our logistic fraternity who have completed 100 years. In fact, that is a very legendary milestone in our industry. So there are 3 companies which have completed these 100 years, JM Bakshi Group, CKB Group of Companies, and Leeladhar Paso. Now I'll request Mr. Umesh Grover to say a minute, and then we will virtually ask them to be present, and that award will be delivered later. Over to Umesh Grover ji.
Yeah, I think Adarsh Bhai has already spoken, and he mentioned in his address the 3 companies. You also named them. Since we are running behind schedule, I would request that if you could kindly display the first the first company which completed was JM Bakshi, then our Chinuvai Kalidas, and then Leeladhar Pasu.
To all my dear friends and colleagues within CFSAI, we are so blessed and feeling so privileged that you all have given us this honor for us having achieved our 100 years. It feels absolutely fantastic, and thank you so much for remembering. We as JM Bakshi, we are an integral part of CFSAI and proud members, proud founding members, and again, the best wishes from all the fellow members means so much to us, and we hope that we can continue contributing and playing a role in the growth and development of the CFS industry going forward, not only now but for the next 100 years to come. Thank you so much.
So thank you to CFSAI for bestowing this honor and recognition on our completing 100 years. Thank you very, very much. I would also like to take this opportunity on behalf of the entire CKB family, management as well as our team to thank all our customers for their unstinted support over all these years. There have been many customers who have been with our organization over 50, 60 years, even more than what I have lived in this world. So thank you to all of them. A bigger thank you goes to actually all our team members who strive very, very hard to ensure that we provide the service required to all our customers. And last but not the least, thanks to all our vendors, carriers, truck contractors, warehousing contractors, labor contractors, everybody for their unstinted support over all these years. Last but not the least, I would also like to thank Gateway Media for organizing this webinar where this award is being virtually given. Thank you so much.
Namaskar. We, Leeladhar Pasu, has celebrated last year in month of November 100 years. It was a great moment for all of us. This could happen because of a great ethics, honesty, and we stay and live with the reality. Change of time, the company has changed, and we have been able to prove ourselves time to time. With fourth generations and with new power, we will take company into the next level which we are working. And I am very thankful to all of you who has given us a support, and I am looking for your support. And I am also thankful to the God for such a wonderful family. We are together and working together. Thank you very much. Namaskar.